You're listening to Somewhat Frank with me, Frank Gruber. After working in the corporate world for a decade, I decided to blaze my own path by co-founding Tech Cocktail, which helped catalyze local startup communities and eventually turned into TechCo Media, a site which grew to millions of readers and was eventually acquired. Over the past decade, I've interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs and thought leaders from some of the fastest growing and most successful companies in history. And along the way, I've learned amazing lessons from my experiences. So we're going to talk about startups, tech, innovation, and their intersection with personal life, and anything else on Frank Gruber's mind. So let's get started being Somewhat Frank. Somewhat Frank is produced with the help of Established, my new company. Hello everybody, I'm Frank Gruber. I am here, and we're doing a special episode today of Somewhat Frank podcast. I'm joined by Johnny Goodtimes, Guidos, or should we call you Johnny Exotic now? Is that what we're going by?
We'll go temporarily for Johnny Exotic. I don't know if I want to fully take that over as my nickname, but for right now, it's a good
placeholder because of the conditions out there, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a little bit later. But quick pandemic update. We are now number one in the U.S. In coronavirus pandemic, which is not something to be joked about, but it's something we've been kind of seen coming as we've got almost like 700,000 cases out there, and 133,000 of them are in the United States.
Way to kick off the show on a bright note, Frank.
Yeah, I mean we're all hunkering down here. We're quarantined and we're doing different things because of that. We've got if you hear children in the background, it's because we're also now school teachers in our day jobs, I guess, as we alternate. Both myself and my wife run Established together, and so one of us we're right now alternating, shifting on and off to do school teacher duty, and my time's up in actually about 10 to 15 minutes, so we got to be quick here. This is gonna be a quick episode and a good test. But yeah, so what we recently found out is that there's 8 strains of the virus. There's an article out there, if you had a chance to check it out yet, Johnny, on USA Today about how they kind of tracked all the strains. And if you haven't seen it, go look for it. We'll be putting it in our show notes. But really interesting to see how the strains have mutated and how it's kind of going from there. And there are different variances of symptoms along the way. And along with that, the New York Times has tracked every single case, which is pretty amazing that they've been able to do that. I don't know if you've seen that. It's out there at New York Times, and you can see every single case of what's going on. And so I think we're in this for a little while. You just saw that the president just pushed our guidelines, I guess you could call it, of self-isolation and whatnot a little bit longer. And we're going to be going now until April 30th, but I actually think it's going to be longer. So I'm curious what you think, Johnny.
Yeah, so I actually have a really good friend of mine that's a data scientist, and he put together a model just for fun because, data scientists, that's the kind of stuff they like to do with the hobby.
That's what I did this weekend. I don't know what you did.
Well, no, I didn't do that. But anyways, his model was only off by a few deaths day over day, which was surprising. But it looks like now they're saying that it may peak in mid-April, which I think would be pretty aggressive numbers, and I'd be happy. I think we'd all be happy with that because at least it's a little ray of sunshine in there. But I mean, by the time this all dwindles and kind of gets back to normal, you're obviously looking at a couple months out. And then I know that Bill Gates and his Bill and Melinda Gates have been fighting diseases all over the world for decades now. He knows it probably more than anybody else, and he's asking for a definite shutdown across the U.S. and, we're looking at definitely a few months. And, we're talking earlier as well, Frank, that this is something that's going to change the way we know the world moving forward. Like you were talking about the Black Plague or smallpox back in the day. And I know it's Spanish flu, right. It's different, but we all, I think, were naive in thinking that technology and science was ready to combat something like this. And we just need to learn from it and be better prepared next time it comes around, because it will be back.
Yeah, it will be, and hopefully we're ready for that. And maybe if it's not this, something else. And I think I even saw a recent report that said that this, coronavirus has been around for a while. Obviously, just it's mutated to a point where it's a little different this time. So Anyway, something to think about, and something to think about also is to be kind out there. We're all kind of hunkering down, and obviously a lot of fear happening, a lot of anxiety and things of that nature, and we just need to remember to be kind to each other as we're out and about, or even staying in. I saw. Did you see what happened? I mean, I'm up in Maine, and there's some fellow Mainers are not being nice out there, out on an island out just off the coast of Rockland, Maine. They basically tried to enforce some kind of self quarantine on one of the owners of a property out there by cutting down a tree and basically coming to him with armed, basically saying don't leave your house, which is not nice. But meanwhile, we've got people on both sides that are coming back up to their summer homes early, and we're not necessarily doing the same, obviously. So you got, as long, the state here has basically said if you come into the state, you got to self quarantine for 14 days, right? So I think that's these folks have been living up there for 3 months, and all of a sudden they're getting approached by an armed mob, basically, which is just not being kind. So think about think about that. Have you been able to get like food, groceries, that kind of stuff?
Well, surprisingly, you should bring that up, Frank, because I misplanned a little bit, and I decided to run out of food a little bit, and not a little bit, a lot. So I'm up at my parents' house doing some work in a remote office. And it's you're with your family and your kid, your daughter and your wife, and I'm with my 2 retired parents, which are great, by the way. I love them very much. But I do sometimes I do feel like, remember that scene in Wedding Crashers where Will Ferrell, Mom, where's the meatloaf?
Yes.
That's what I've been doing the past few days. I never know what she's doing in there. My colleagues are busy working in the other room, and I'm hammering out phone calls. So,
but everyone's got their challenges. I bet you at any moment, my office door could be stormed here with a 4-year-old and a couple dogs barking and chasing and making all sorts of ruckus. So it's just you gotta roll
with it.
We did a pitch competition a couple weeks ago. Was it a week ago now? It's blurs. All the days of blurring together. And one of the companies pitched from his car because everyone's working from home, and he, has children as well. And he literally pitched. He's like, "This is the quietest place in my house."
Yeah, I remember.
So it's like, I understand. Like, I didn't even think twice. I thought that was a great idea. Actually, I might use that sometime. But anyway, let's move on. Keep on moving on with all this Corona stuff. There's still good stuff happening, and you basically tossed this my way yesterday when you first saw it pop up from The Office. The John Krasinski, he created something called Some Good News. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go to SomeGoodNews.com or go to YouTube or to his Twitter or wherever. About a day ago, he produced Some Good News cast, which is basically all good news. It was really uplifting, and he basically sourced it all via Twitter, and it was pretty well done. And his kids created the logo for SGN, which is a really colorful rainbowy logo, which was really cool and cute. So you've seen a lot more of that.
He did a really nice job. He's one of those. I don't know him personally, but he's always seemed to me to be a pretty good guy, and from what I see in the news and stuff. But
right.
I was happy to see that because I personally, People Magazine. We all need a little bit of good news, and I was happy to see that. So good.
Totally. Yeah, and you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing the Jimmy Fallon performing from home, and tonight is the first Conan O'Brien at home show. Like, they're all doing their own at home shows because everyone's in the same situation. So it's pretty cool to see what creativity comes out of it. Similarly, we've seen a lot of live music, right? So,
oh yeah.
I don't know if did you tune in? So Zach Brown was last night. It ended up being a little bit more talking than singing, but watched a little while. And the last couple of nights we had Dave Matthews do a live show, Jack Johnson do a live show, and then Elton John did one last night. I think it was even on television, right?
Yeah, it was. I missed a lot of them. I saw the Jack Johnson one, which was really cool because
it was good.
What I liked about it was it started storming. You could hear it. He went into a banana pancakes rendition, so it was really
I love that, and as a guitar player, I love that he was trying to teach you how to basically play guitar, which is really cool. And his songs have always been, I felt like, easier to learn. So I think he should just go on there and just do live lessons every single day and just hang out. He's out in Hawaii, and it was kind of fun to see. And he even had his daughter join for one of the songs, which was cool. And,
he's impressive.
I have to go check out. Is that out there now? I mean, that's the one thing. I don't know if it's still out there, if it goes away after.
They posted them. They recorded them.
Okay, cool. So I'll check that out. I mean, lots of time to watch, right? We're doing a lot of watching right now. Doing a ton of reading, mostly about this topic. So if you're not a subscriber to the Somewhat Frank podcast, check it out. We've talked about a lot of different these things in the past. It's on every platform, but you can also get the newsletter at frankgruber.me/newsletter. And with that, I put out a lot of different articles and links that we're reading. Right now, there's just a lot of them are about coronavirus, unfortunately.
Right.
But don't worry, there's going to be others as well. I've been collecting, and some of these that we're talking about now will end up in the newsletter. You'll get an email, so you can check that out. But with that, we should also talk about some of the startups that are doing cool things. We've got some in our network, some that we know are really doing interesting things to help with the coronavirus effort. And we put a resource page out, actually. If you go to soty.link, so soty.link/COVID-19, all caps COVID, COVID 19, and then resources, capital RESOURCES, resources with an S. You can check it out. It's got really interesting, some of our Startup of the Year alumni, community partners, and as well as some federal government resources out there. So Periomics, which was our 2018 Startup of the Year and is part of the Established Ventures portfolio, has a COVID-19 test out there for basically for patients to get through their doctors. You can learn more and order. Actually, you can order them online. If you go to that site, you'll find the link. Genie, which just won our Startup of the Year South by Southwest virtual event, which we just hosted last week. They also have the ability to consult with doctors, around COVID-19, but doing so, it's a translation app, so they're actually helping with learn language interpreters for those that may not be able to connect in the right language with the doctor you're talking to. So that's pretty cool. And then Kamana, which is a health professional staffing company, is also they've created a COVID-19 action response plan to fill staffing shortages for nurses or allied health professionals across the nation. There's more. MemoryWell is doing interesting things. NeuroFlow has got a coronavirus risk assessment and anxiety screening that they're part of our 2019 top 15. There's, also we've got some other companies that were part of our partner program, NASA iTech, which is PPE supplies. They're helping with medical supplies for doctors and whatnot. And then Re3D, which was our Startup of the Year last year in 2019, they're able to 3D print different things. And so they're basically helping with some of their fabrication, taking their 3D printing labs and trying to help creating healthcare equipment from their Houston factory. So that's pretty interesting, as well as some of our partners. We've got some resources out there, Hello Alice and Covalent Logic and Embark Collective, just to name a couple, as well as Startup Space. So really cool. Go check it out. It's soty.link/COVID-19 resources. You can also find it on startupofyear.com. We'll be adding new resources as we find them, as they're, part of the community. We've done some surveys and we're trying to collect everything and get it out there. So, but aside from that, there's a lot of things out there to watch, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here.
Right. Well, I would like 7 hours back of my life because I got sucked into the whole Tiger King show on Netflix. Yep. Did you ever get a chance to watch that?
I've seen the previews. I've seen the kind of ongoing memes and stuff like that. We dove into Ozark the other day when it came out on Friday, and that's dark and makes you tense up. So then we have to douse that with a little bit of Schitt's Creek, which is hilarious. We have
douse it with Schitt's Creek.
Right. So if you haven't seen that program, that's a good one too, and that's got 5 seasons, so you can watch that. But tell me more about this Tiger King, because I know you're a Johnny Exotic right now, and we talked about the beginning of the show. What does this mean? Is this just crazy mayhem? I got to look at this. I mean, it's on my list.
It's just a crazy bunch of people put together on a show that are fighting each other. It's absurd. The production is amazing. I mean, they're interviewing these people in bathtubs and stuff. It's crazy. But what I will say that the most important thing that I took away from it was this guy, he decided to run he ran for president. He dropped out, and then he ran for governor of Oklahoma. Oh, wow. And he hired a gentleman that was working at Walmart to run his campaign for him. And they ended up pulling 19% of the voters to vote for Johnny Exotic in Oklahoma a few years ago.
Oh my gosh!
Someone needs to give that guy a job. That's the one thing I took from that show. Other than I feel bad for the animals. The animals lose. Everybody else is crazy and should probably be in jail to some extent or the other. And then you have this poor guy from Walmart that got 19% of the voters in Oklahoma to vote for. So that's my brief breakdown. Let me know when you finish it what you think, because that's my That's my 2
Yeah,
cents.
no, I'm going to try to check it out. I mean, before we do, I wanted to just final note, kind of talk about a poll I put out there. And we'll maybe come back to this on our next show. But there's a poll out there. It's on Frank Gruber on Twitter. I think I put it on every channel, so except for Instagram. So ironically, but yeah, it's basically asking you like what of these things would you like consider like to be, or would you feel uncomfortable about after like this whole coronavirus kind of thing kind of like subsides? Like, would you be uncomfortable traveling, live events, movie, dinner? Like, go fill out the poll. Let us know. We'll bring that topic back up around on our next show and talk about kind of the trends we're seeing. And yeah. But as you're chilling out and watching Netflix or whatever you're doing, you can do it with friends. There's a plugin called Netflix Party. Have you heard of this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can go get this plugin and watch and like comment and like be in a little chat room. So that's kind of a fun little thing that I recently uncovered.
Are you gonna tell everybody the poll results, or are you gonna wait till next episode?
Let's wait till that's next episode because it's still going, and I wanted to talk about it, but we run out of time, so we got to jump on our next thing. But thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. For those of you that aren't watching we're live streaming this right now on Instagram, and we're also recording it, so it'll be out as a podcast. So for those of you that are following along, appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Summer Frank Podcast. Thank you for listening on Instagram, and it was great to see you all. Good to see you too, Johnny Exotic. Good times. All right, we'll see you again soon. All right, take care.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening. This is Somewhat Frank, signing off. Frank Gruber. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe online, iTunes, SoundCloud, Android, wherever you can find it. Somewhat Frank Podcast. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks so much.